Good day. I guess we are live tasting Shiraz. Welcome to everybody. Oh, 6:59. Hi, Greer. Hello, Marla. You were able to make it. I'm so glad. Hello from North Carolina. Hi, guys. Mar, are you where you need to be, or are you in transit? Marla says, me too, but I'm not sure for what. Are you guys watching something different? Oh, my Facebook, my Instagram didn't go. Hi, Leslie. Happy Friday. Cheers. Right on time. All right, we're now live on Instagram as well. Marla's in the room and she's got tacos. Leslie, Marla had a big drive today. Hi, Lori Bailey, welcome. Hi, Keith Miller, welcome. Keith is gonna repost the link.
What does repost
mean? Taking the
share
link,
it?
yeah, put it on my site so that
I can't get to your site though.
you can share it to Alison Miller.
Oh, I
That's
see.
me, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I hope everybody had a good week. Hope everybody's doing all right. We've got lots and lots to talk about tonight. Happy Memorial Day weekend, Lori. Are you up north? Hi, Leanne. Welcome. Just talking about Memorial Day weekend and how it's a weird time this year, as Leanne can attest. Usually our camper is gone. And Leanne already started because her response was hick. Twice. That's funny.
The camper in her neighbor's yard?
Hi, no Q. Yeah, they get to see the camper. Usually it's gone by now, but it's not. Hi, Chris Westberg. Welcome. Cheers. All right. So, how's everyone doing on this Memorial Day weekend, long weekend of record? First time that we are all socially distanced on a major holiday. So that's kind of an interesting weekend. And what better way to start it off but with a wine tasting? Now, had I been able to predict the weather, I surely would have, hi Nancy, welcome. I surely would have picked a white or a cold climate red. And in fact, I'm working on my tasting pack for June, and I'm looking for some reds that are a little, not quite as warm and toasty. But nonetheless, it's, I don't know, 80 degrees out, and we're drinking Shiraz. So cheers, everybody. Cheers, Keith. Okay, notice the big glasses. If you haven't filled your glass yet, grab a big glass. You drink Shiraz in a big glass. And Nancy says, Shirley, you can't be serious. I'm so serious, Shirley.
And don't call me Shirley.
Chris Westberg went shopping in the fridge and he found the right bottle in the fridge. Nice, Chris. Hopefully it wasn't cold. But if it's cold, it'll taste different. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're just talking about drinking out of a big glass. And yes, you could probably fit half a bottle, I think, in here. But if you don't put half the bottle in, you only put a little bit, you get more oxygen. There you go. That's why you're using a big glass.
And if you want to drink a half bottle.
Yes, if you want to, right. And then Marla says, unfortunately, she has a plastic hotel room cup, but dude, at least you have a cup. Hopefully it was unused. Okay, we're just happy you're here. All right, so though I can taste the wine already. This is the Glaetzer Bishop, and it's from the Barossa Valley. And a lot of us are drinking this tonight. And those of you who are drinking this, it's going to. So right now I have to open a half hour. I'm going to stir it a little bit, just really oxygenate it. So Mary says the glass that you drink a petite Syrah from, should that be big too? Well, Mary, let's explain what happened, because that's a great way to jump off and start talking about Syrah. So petite Syrah Mary went to go get Syrah, and we didn't have a conversation this time. And so Petit Syrah is actually a completely different grape. It is from the, I want to say Dorset grape. It's a DOR grape out of Italy. And when it was brought to America, they called it some things, but realized that it actually was an Italian grape. It looks like Syrah, so they had to rename it. So they renamed it Petit Syrah. So it's still really good, Mary, and a warm glass, a big glass will be good. Chris is holding it between his thighs to warm it up from fridge temperature. Thank God, Chris. Thank God. Hi, Pam Sarantis, welcome. Hi, Christine, welcome. And anybody else who has joined, happy Memorial Day weekend. And we're noting how we are drinking out of big glass. Unfortunately, well, thankfully you guys don't know, well, unfortunately, Chris had his in his fridge and didn't read my instructions. So he is warming his wine up with his thighs. All right. All right. So talking about temperature, and actually I haven't even, let me get started by jumping my first accolades. All right. Because then we'll get back to Chris's thighs. Hi, Nicole. Welcome. So I just want to say that I hope Melissa and Greer had wonderful 50th birthday weeks. And I hope you had a great week. And then thank you all for joining us. And the overview for those of you who are new is we're going to talk, we're going to make comments, and we're going to play with Syrah. Nancy pointed out that Shirley, wait, what was it, Nance? I have to find it now. Shirley, you can't be serious. Shirley, we're drinking Shiraz.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Thank you, Keith. I am Shirley.
I am serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. All right, enough about Shirley. Although I keep picturing Laverne and Shirley. I keep doing it. So the drinking game of the night, let the games begin, is if anybody says, well, that would be me saying, or anybody types in comments, or Keith says, good day, mate, or cheers, mate.
Or screws up a Leslie Nielsen.
Anything with mate in it. And so I was going to invite Chris Hemsworth to come and maybe, heckle us with good day, mate, but he didn't. But that's 3 cheers, everybody. 3 cheers.
Good day, mate.
All right. And in honor of drinking Shiraz tonight in Australia, I am wearing Keith's Australia hat from Down Under. He truly purchased it in Australia. So I requested. Hi, Lisa Gilbert, welcome. All right, Liam could fill in Liam could fill in. You're right, Liam, but if I had my choice. Yeah, cheers. All right, anybody else? Good day, mate. I wish we could hear you. Hi, Rosalie, welcome. Thanks, Lisa Gilbert. It's Keith's Down Under hat. Oh, Rosalie, I can see your comments. Excellent. And I'm glad that you're here because I wanted to make another call out from last week. Rosalie has been joining us every week from Quebec, and she had commented last week, as I mentioned, the Canadians coming down and purchasing rosé, and since they can't cross the border, she was pointing out what wonderful wines they have in Canada, which they absolutely do. And one that she was trying was, it's called Framboise, excuse my pronunciation. And I looked it up. It's like a raspberry, lovely, chilled wine. It sounded wonderful. And Rosalie indeed shared that it was wonderful. It is a rosé, but it's raspberry based, Framboise. Hi, Andy, welcome.
If you find a mouse in your wine, you get a free case.
You do not get a free case if you fly. Why are you going to find a mouse in your wine?
The Canadians don't understand.
Okay. Rosalie, we'll see if you understand it. That's right, Andy, Aussie. Leanne, you relax, but you keep commenting. And see, as Rosalie said, it was fantastic. So maybe someday we will have to discuss that or try that, the Framboise. And again, a reminder that anytime we say good day, mate, or cheers, mate, we will take a sip. Okay, I have to take this off. It's so hot. Whew. All right, Keith is wearing it now. All right. Okay, so let's talk about Shiraz. So many of you have the tasting pack, and if you do, as you guys learned last week, we're going to talk about the one that I'm tasting, and we're talking about what everybody is tasting. So most of us have either the Shiraz or we have a Syrah, and one of us has a Petit Syrah. You're welcome, Mary. All right, and Scott and Jess couldn't be here tonight, but they use my tasting card pack often. And I see the sun is beating down through the window today. They use our tasting pack often, and they always say to me, why is there a koala? Like, where would you, and I, of course, don't have it in front of me. Here it is. Why would you have a koala in your tasting pack? And it's for the Shiraz. Okay, so that's a little teaser. All right, and one last thing before we jump in. Last week I said I was going to taste rhubarb, and so Leanne and I luckily had a neighbor who posted that she had grown rhubarb and she was thinking about making rhubarb pie. So thank you to Carrie. We're going to give rhubarb a taste. So I don't know if you guys remember, but last week some people were saying they tasted strawberry and some people tasted cherry. And someone said, and I actually think it was Leanne, said that sounds like, oh, it might have been me, said that sounds like rhubarb, but I had never had it. Okay, so this is rhubarb. Okay, definitely citrusy and celery. Not anything that I would want to taste necessarily. I did heat it up. I microwaved it. Okay. It's kind of tangy, okay? So the reason we're talking about rhubarb is last week in a lot of the rosés, there was a rhubarb aroma and taste to it. And so that means it's really grapefruity, citrusy, with a little bit of a celery taste to it. All right, enough of, and Leanne, tell me if you got the same thing. It definitely is sour. Yes, no sugar, right, it's definitely bitter. And remember we talked about the way that something tastes without being in the wine is a different way than it will taste when it's in the wine. So if I really, really wanted to get a taste for what rhubarb would be like, I would put some wine in here and then put some rhubarb in. But since there's no rhubarb in the wine I'm drinking tonight, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, Leanne says need sugar in a pie with strawberries, right. Hi Tina, welcome. Yes, and that's why they put strawberries and rhubarb together. Tina, we're just talking about rhubarb. It was a kind of catch up from last week because we did a rosé. And we were talking about what rhubarb tasted like. All right. So, oh, interesting. Applesauce and rhubarb. That sounds interesting. All right. And sorry about that. My email pops up every once in a while. It does a little bit of a glitch. All right. So we're going to jump into talking about Shiraz versus Syrah. And I know that you guys can't see this, but my screen is splitting, so I can't see the comments. All right. So Shiraz, Shiraz, S-H-I-R-A-Z, right? Shirley tasted Shiraz, and she found it to be a rich and full wine, dark-skinned. It's a very big wine. It's a warm wine. So as I said, I'm already hot, a little sweaty, maybe we can put the air conditioning on. And so to add to it, it definitely, with the alcohol, is going to warm you up. So if you're in a hot area, you may not choose to drink Shiraz. Hi, Keith Bennett and Nicole, welcome. Keith yells, hey. And we are just jumping into tasting Shiraz, and the drinking game of the night is Good Day, Mate, or Cheers, Mate. Anytime you hear mate, take a sip.
Or the dingo ate my baby.
Or the dingo ate my baby. If you hear that, take a sip. All right, so Shiraz, rich and full wine, dark skin. Serve from a large glass, and typically we think of red wine as warm. But I had an interesting text actually with Leanne earlier. Well, the temperature it should be served at is 64 degrees. I'm looking around, I have a wine cuff, and it just fits over the wine. It's a little sleeve, and it'll tell you what the temperature is. If you, and Leanne likes the dingo ate my baby, so if you end up texting it, we'll cheers. And I guess we have to cheers for that. And so if you end up with, we're all drinking this probably too warm, except for Chris Westberg, because we don't know what temperature Chris Westberg's, his thighs might be warming it up too warm. I don't know. Chris, you can tell us, but we're going for 64.
We're not.
We're going for 64. And so if you pulled it out of the fridge, it needs to warm. But if it's been sitting around, like our house is pretty hot, it's probably a little too warm. Okay. And Shiraz is actually the warmest temperature a wine should be served at. It's just because of the big body, the big punch that it has. So if you remember, when you say room temperature, that comes from France. And rooms in France were very cold 100 years ago, much colder than now what we think of room temperature. All right. So Syrah is the grape. So Shiraz is Australian Syrah. We've talked a lot the last few weeks about Old World versus New World, and it's a lot more talk about Chris's thighs. The Syrah, so Syrah is the grape, and it originated in France. And when it went to Australia, they started calling it Shiraz. And now it's indicative, actually, it's a good indicator of the style, kind of New World versus Old World. So Shiraz is big, it's bold, it's usually in the front palate, meaning it's fruity at the front, and then there's some chocolate and tannins and structure in the back. Syrah, the grape itself, is typically made in France, and that seems to be, and that tends to be, it's darker than Cab, but it has, it's more minerally, more earthy, and it's a little bit more finesse, but it's still really big on your palate. Okay, so any wine made with Syrah, the grape, it's darker than Cabernet Sauvignon and has high amounts of antioxidants. So I would like to say that most of us are being pretty healthy tonight and drinking a little bit of Syrah.
A half bottle of Syrah.
Keith is marking on my glass, the size of it. Okay, but they're genetically identical, Shiraz. But Shiraz also is going to, we're going to talk a lot about the difference between, or I'm going to talk a lot about the difference between Australian Shiraz and Syrah. Sally, oh, hi, Sally. I always think that I'm prepared and then look to see that I've opened a Syrah instead. And they're both big. And we're actually going to do a Syrah in the tasting pack. We might do a blend next month, and then the month after that, do a Syrah from Cornas in France, which is lovely. So we'll definitely get more into that as well. Okay, so Shiraz is typically grown in warmer climates, rich, higher alcohol, and more exuberant. And in fact, the bottle says that this is 14.5%. However, in about 10 minutes of doing Good Day Mates, you're gonna know that this has more alcohol. They likely have, you can go about 1.5% legally lower on your label.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Syrah comes out a big, high alcohol, more sugar in the grapes, kind of like Zinfandel. So it's a big alcohol wine. People gonna do what they're gonna do, yo, Chris. Hi, Cassandra, welcome. So we're just drinking our Shiraz. And so Sally, yes, I'm gonna post, next week I'll put up the tasting pack on my site, and I'll make sure to remind you of how to get it. So Syrah, typically cooler climates, more restrained, elegant, minerally, peppery, and more acidic and herbaceous. And Shiraz is more fruit-driven and lots of spice. It's the most planted grape variety in the majority of Australian vineyards, though Syrah is tasted mostly, is grown predominantly in France. The Barossa Valley and the McLaren Vale are the best for in Australia. Oh, good, Chris. I'm glad you like the Bishop Shiraz. Good. And so we're going to talk about those areas in Australia and definitely how you buy Shiraz, what you look for. So I don't know if you guys remember, like, I think it was Blackstone Shiraz. That was one of the first Shirazes. That was one of the wines that I started with 20 years ago. I can remember sitting down at the Plaza in Boston drinking Blackstone Shiraz. It was a big, heavy, just fruit-driven Shiraz. And that was the style at the time. And so now to find a great Shiraz, they've made adjustments, and we'll talk more about that too as they refined Australian wine. But now you look for a generous wine, which is big mouthfeel up front with great depth of flavor, but also elegant, multi-layered, and finely balanced. So elegant structure, long finish, and that's what this should have. Leanne comments, her tasting pack is up there as her best purchase of her quarantine. Thank you, Leanne. That's awesome. And thank you all for your support always. And as I mentioned before, for Shiraz, a telltale sign is not the koala, but the taste of eucalyptus. And this is an example of my tasting cards, but it's distinctive and unique scent, mint, eucalypt, or camphor. It's herbal. The wine that we're drinking does not have eucalyptus because it's probably not grown near eucalyptus plants where the oil goes into the soil and then up into the vines and up into the grapes. And also they're finding that the oils are carrying in the wind and attaching to grapes. And so some winemakers want the eucalyptus and some don't. And so Nicole's drinking the Penfolds Max's Shiraz Cab, which we'll talk about, and that's a blend. How is it, Nicole? Tell us how it is. Oh, all right, Sally. So Columbia Valley Syrah, very nice. Vanishing Act. And Lisa, yes, no eucalyptus. Okay, all right. So Sally, remind me to go back to Columbia Valley on that. I'll talk about the U.S. But other words for Shiraz: Syrah, Marsan Noir, Hermitage, which is spelled hermitage, Crozes Hermitage, Cornas, Cote Rotier, and St. Joseph. The last ones that I mentioned, those are other words. That's basically the regions in France where Syrah is from. All right, so let's jump into our Wine 101. We do it every week, so we go quickly, but feel free to stop me at any point. Oh, good, Nicole, I'm glad that you like it. And that Penfolds is, of course, iconic, and we'll talk more about that, but they now make lots of different kinds, and I love a Shiraz Cabernet blend. I bet it's fantastic. All right, so first we're gonna look at the color. Up against white. All right, and that's all of yours, no matter where it's from. It's gonna be a bold, dark purple. This one they call vivid purple. All right, and Lori has the 19 Crimes Shiraz from Southeast Australia. Very big, yes. 19 Crimes actually has been awarded a whole bunch of marketing awards because they were the first ones to really capitalize on immersive advertising in the wine industry. So if you take their label, and they make kind of bulk wines, but still a nice wine, a nice drinking wine. And you scan the label and it brings you to a website, and the prisoner on the label, whoever's on that 19 Crimes, talks to you and tells you their story. So really smart marketing. Yeah, and their blends really are fantastic, the Penfolds. And 19 Crimes is a nice drinking wine. Again, it's gonna be warm for a day like this, definitely warm. All right, okay, so now we're gonna do the color. We did the color. Now we're gonna do the legs. And these should be bodacious legs. Can you say that, bodacious legs? Yeah, the talking label is super cool. Okay, so the legs, how do you know if the legs are big? The wine kind of hangs from the top down and will slowly reveal the legs. Okay, and so we'll slowly reveal the legs. And that tells you it's high alcohol. And it tells you that it's gonna have a big mouthfeel, it's viscous. So Greer has the Bishop 2016 Barossa Valley from my tasting pack. Bold and smooth at the same time, yeah, so very nice. All right, so Chris says, Meritage equals Shiraz. Nope, Hermitage equals Shiraz. Meritage equals red blend. So Shiraz is made from Syrah, and so it's made in France in Hermitage. Meritage is red blend. It is, it's confusing. It's very confusing. Lots of legs, Leslie, yeah, yes. And every single one of your Shirazes, and even the Petite Syrah Mare, even though it's a different grape, it still should be big and bold and have legs, okay? All right, so what do we smell?
What's the difference between Petite Syrah and Syrah?
So Keith asks what's the difference. We did mention at the beginning, but they're two different varietals, Petite Syrah and Syrah. Petite Syrah was named, it's actually Dulcet from Italy, but it was named Petite Syrah because the grapes look like Syrah grapes, but when they looked at them genetically, they're two different things. Okay, big legs, high alcohol, yep. All right, so everybody's jumping ahead on the, let's see, everybody's jumping ahead with the smell, with the tasting. Oh, and Christine Ryan comments she's drinking a Torbreck, so that's amazing too, one of the top places, fantastic. Who was thinking about the dingo? Good day, mate.
Drink. No babies were harmed.
Yeah, so Lisa Gilbert asked why so many different names, i.e. Hermitage. And they are regions, that's right. Hermitage is a region. Meritage isn't. It just is named for a blend. And that's why it's kind of in the American accent. I looked it up and that's how it's saying. All right. Smell of chocolate and earth. Good. Yes. So talking about those aromas, it's all going to be with Shiraz, earth, and black fruit. It's definitely going to be black fruit. So Marla's getting the chocolate, the earth, and a little bit of plastic for her plastic cup. Cheers. Excellent. And Lisa's enjoying this, Bishop. Hey, TC. How are you doing? Welcome. Happy birthday, TC. Cheers. Do a good day, mate, to TC. That's Tina. Her birthday was a couple days ago. All right. So, so we have cut plum, dried spice, dark chocolate. See if you get that, okay? Black cherry, yes, definitely. Bold and smooth with a thick aroma. So Lisa says a thick smell. Let's see if we can place that. So there's definitely earth. It's like a deep, heavy earth. And Lisa, I'm gonna call it olives, okay? See if you agree. Leslie's getting the dark fruit. And Marla's getting plastic, and you're welcome, TC. And so this is the one that we're drinking, the Glaetzer Bishop, is it's going to have, so all of them are going to have dark fruit. They all, Shiraz has dark, Shiraz and Syrah will have dark fruit, okay? So here are some of the tasting qualities. You may have blueberry. You may have blackberry. You may have black pepper. You may have black plum, and you may have black cherries, okay? So we're identifying the fruits first. So what I wanna ask you to do, and this is how we learn, smell what you're drinking. Swirl it and smell it. Do you smell any of that? Can you pick out, like if you picture black cherries and you were to mush them up and put them in your mouth, what are they tasting like? And is that in the wine? Same thing with a black plum. And notice I took out all the red cherry, red raspberry. Those are all gone because there's none of that in this wine. Blackberry, okay. What do mashed up blackberries taste like? All right, let's see what we got here. Chris is loving this wine, awesome. Okay, Leanne's got some dark chocolate. Yes, absolutely. Our wine, and a lot of Shirazes, this wine in particular, will have some dark chocolate on the finish. Absolutely. And Leanne, that's a model that I love too, especially in Malbec, I find that as well. All right. Sally's getting black cherry, plum, and chocolate. Yes. Marla's getting pepper at the top of her tongue, and then cherry and chocolate. Rosalie's got some dark fruit and blackberries. And Leanne just got a little anise, okay? And so anybody who's drinking the Glaetzer, that is absolutely in there. It's on the back end. So you get your first taste quality, you get that fruit. Then you think about it a little bit. You get a little bit maybe on the mid palate. Where these grapes were grown in the Barossa Valley is in a warm, flat vineyard with a lot of cold variation. And so the way that these grapes are grown, they are grown to be delicate, and they promoted this, they wanted this wine to pull out a little bit of that anise. So it's purposefully in there from the winemaker. Very good. Lori's got cherry and plum. Yes, in your 19 crimes, that should be the predominant thing in there, okay? And everybody's lamenting Marla's plastic, but that's awesome. She tastes the plastic, right? So when you guys started tasting with me, a lot of you didn't taste the plastic, and now you're starting to, which is fantastic. So Greer asked, the cards are for my tasting game. How can one buy that? Thank you, Greer. So my tasting game is on my website, www.partyinabox.com. You can reach out to me directly. Or on Artisan Wine Group by message, or it's also on my artisanwinetasting.com site, where I'll be selling the June tasting pack as well. All right, so Marla gets the pepper at the tip of the tongue. Yep, good. Sally, yours says boysenberry. Okay, so boysenberry to me is a dark fruit. It has a slight different taste to it. I feel it on the mid palate. If anybody else can add to boysenberry, because it's been a while since I've had it, that'll be helpful too for Sally to pull that out. Chris, good for you. He put his hand over the glass, he swirled, and he sniffed. And what did he get? Pepper. And actually, Chris, good for you. Lisa Gilbert said there's something else in there. And I said olive, but it actually could be the pepper too. Black pepper and white pepper both smell a little differently. Black pepper has kind of a different note to it. So Christine has more chocolate, and the more chocolate you eat while you're drinking it, that's awesome. And definitely cherry, but it should be black cherry and not red cherry. Okay. So Lori says, what would you pair with this? It's a bit overwhelming with chicken Caesar salad. Yeah. So Lori, when you drink Shiraz, it's bold. And so you need to eat bold. Okay. So hard cheeses. I actually have a soft cheese I'm going to taste it with. But I would also do big heavy meats. Are you going to say something? Oh, he said it was really, really good. He had meat lovers pizza. No?
Pepperoni and mushroom.
Pepperoni and mushroom. Sorry, there was a mushroom on it. And so he said that was good. I bet the pepperoni is good with it. Okay. So bolder meats with it. Okay. Thank you, Greer, for putting that up. That's the wrong link. Don't order flowers from me, but it's thatpartyinabox.com. So Chris says it went well with Mexican. Chris, was it steak or was it chicken Mexican? Or, dark meat, light meat, so bold or not bold. All right, and Greer says the Bishop is getting better and better. It is. It keeps opening up more and more. Okay, Rosalie isn't getting chocolate or pepper, and it could be the one you're drinking, Rosalie, but typically they try for Shirazes to have that chocolate, and Shiraz always will have a pepper to it, so it could just be muted in yours. Greer has ribs, absolutely. All right.
Oh, no, Greer.
And Chris said, went a bit crazy after swirling. Good. Okay, so his is opening up more and more and more, and it's warming up, and he's getting the black cherry as well. Yes. Notice, too, this is a professional tip. Notice I'm not wearing a light shirt. Nancy, that is for you. Nancy and I are similarly klutzy. I have a dark shirt on. Shiraz is big and heavy and staining. So, professional tip. All right. All right, so when you're tasting Syrah, it's especially Shiraz, but Syrah, hi Amy, welcome. It's like a punch of flavor. And so when I say that, a punch of flavor, I read it in so many different places. You should experience that if you think about it. It really is a punch of flavor as you're drinking it. If it doesn't resonate with you, drink it again. Let's do a cheers. Good day, mate.
Good night.
My Australian accent's getting worse.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
Okay. Keith is coming out with all the movie lines now. And so then it tapers off, and then it has a spicy, peppery note in the aftertaste. And so Rosalie wasn't getting the peppers, and so Rosalie, if you think about it, it's going to be a little bit of a salty. It's not really salty, but it's a mouthfeel. And I want to say it has like a high note to it. I'm trying to describe how it would taste to you. But you could, I have pepper out here somewhere.
Real pepper?
Yeah, I had real pepper. But you can put some on your hand, pepper, and just taste it and then taste the wine and see if it tastes any different to you. Okay? Good day, mate. And Greer says, cheers, mate. That's another one. All right, so Rosalie, you could take a side glass and add your wine into it, put the pepper in and try it, or you can just take a little taste of the pepper, put it on your tongue and try your wine, and then see if you're finding that quality in the wine after. Okay, oh good, yay Rosalie, awesome, Rosalie got it. Nice, nice. Picture of the Bennetts on a beautiful day, enjoy the wine with us, very nice. I wish that you guys could post pictures on the comments that we could all see, because it's fun to see where everybody's from. So on the palate, you're definitely going to get some freshness. You get black currant, right? It's a little sweeter, dark fruit. You get some mocha. You might get some tannins, okay, especially with the Glaetzer, all right, the one that we're drinking. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's see. I think what we'll do is we'll talk about Shiraz in general. So the winemaking now is very different. It's very big and bold, but they're trying to get elegant. So Syrah was born and bred in France, a crossing of Deriza and Mondus Blanc from the Savoy region in the French Alps. And I'm actually gonna have a Mondus in my next tasting pack because it's a great summer red. In 1830, Syrah was introduced to Australia, actually in 1817, so there's a debate on the history of Syrah in Australia, but recently it's been attributed to John MacArthur. They're not sure exactly when the name changed. So they don't know if it was the Australian accent or if they just wanted to claim it at the end as theirs. Hi, Brenda Lee, welcome. Grab a glass and join us. The cool thing is though, 1817, 1830, whenever it really was brought to Australia, they planted the vines, and we've talked about this before, but up in the Barossa, up in the McLaren Vale, they didn't get phylloxera. So their vines are up to 130 years of age. They have very, very old vines in a lot of Australia. And now some of you might ask, what happened during the fires. So what happens during fires in wine regions is that the vines have so much water in them, they almost act as a fire stopper, a fire fence. And a lot of times the fire will burn to the vines, but not go over them. Unfortunately, in Australia, the fire was so hot that they did in some regions lose a lot of vines, more so than in Napa and other areas. But it actually was only 1% of the winemaking in Australia. But what they did experience is smoke taint. So all the smoke blowing on because they hadn't harvested the grapes. So the grapes were affected. So they're going to have a lower yield for 2020. And unfortunately in 2019, they also had a drought. So they had less, sorry, Nicole, I don't mean to laugh at you. I'm sorry that you spilled wine on your keyboard. But hopefully it's okay.
Well, remember how, like, when we were in Napa with the fires, how just like random,
yeah,
there was
right. And when we were in Napa, right after the fires, you could see that the fire would kind of jump the road here and skip it here, and that was because of the high winds. But the Australian ones were different because they were they were a little different. They were more intense, and they were different type of brush fires from what I've read. But also in 2019. They also had a drought, so it's kind of bummed. I mean, kind of. So they're in general, Australian wines might be a little bit more expensive or harder to get, but their best vineyards, Barossa, McLaren Vale, were not impacted at all, and so Adelaide Hills was, which is right around that area, but they weren't. So, okay. Aw, tell Bill it happens. Professional. I don't know, accidents. All right, so going back to the old vines, so that's what Barossa is known for, and we talked about this last week, but what are old vines good for? Low yielding, small, intense berries for some of the world's greatest red wines. So no other region in the world has as old of vines, including Hermitage and Côte Rôtier, because of phylloxera. Okay, so and then in 1950, Max Schubert set out to make high-quality table wine out of Shiraz, and that was Penfolds' range. And so that it was one of the most iconic wines ever. And Penfolds goes for $5,000 a bottle, all the way down to a $20 bottle. So Penfolds is still really well known. Oh, TC says spilled oil on hers. Oh, Andrew's back. So Penfolds is interesting, but really, really, really iconic good wines. So old vines, ancient geology, very complex soils, and old vines because of no phylloxera. So it's definitely the recipe for great wines, okay? And so there are lots of different valleys within Australia or areas. And so we'll talk about those, or I'll talk about those in just a few minutes. But I do want to just kind of give you an overview, even though we're going to do French Syrah. But just so, Andy, is Max Schubert the theater guy? That's interesting. And so what I am going to cover French Syrah. So what is the difference? So Syrah, the varietal grown in France, is one of the most important grape varieties of the Rhone Valley. And so that's on the eastern side of France, and it's up and down a mountain range, and there's a northern and a southern Rhone. In the northern Rhone, it's the only red grape variety allowed. So for some of the top appellations. In southern Rhone, like Châteauneuf-du-Pape or Côte de Rhône, Syrah is typically blended with Grenache, Mourvedre, forming GSM blend. GSM is Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, and we're going to have that in next month's tasting pack. Okay. And I don't know how you get top fan, Andy. I think you have to request it. There's a button you can choose, but thank you for asking. And so France, as I said before, is that you can't talk about Shiraz without talking about France, because France is the #1 producer of Syrah, and it's the same grape. But Australia is the second biggest producer. And then in Spain, they do grow Syrah, but it's usually blended. South Africa, the US, and Chile grow Syrah. Oftentimes they can choose between calling it Shiraz and calling it Syrah. So if they call it Shiraz, it's going to be the bolder, bigger wine, higher alcohol, and more dark fruit forward. If they call it Syrah, it's going to be a more restrained quality. And a lot of, like the one that Sally's drinking, a lot of the ones from the US, especially if they call them Syrah, the French do have a lot of rules, Lisa. And so if they call them Syrah out of even the US or Chile, it's going to be a more delicate, restrained type. So not as much alcohol and not as big off the block, like a punch in the face like this is, okay? In a good way, punch in the palate. And New Zealand is also making it. But New Zealand is cold weather climate. They are actually making more like the French style, more minerally, more peppery, okay? So Syrah overall taste qualities, blackberry, blueberry, and boysenberry, as Sally mentioned. Olive, pepper, clove, vanilla, mint, licorice, chocolate, allspice, rosemary, smoke, meat, and they definitely oak it, okay? Both of them would be oaked. All right, so let's talk about, let's see, Max or his brother Hans Schubert. Is Andy making this up? All right, Leslie likes the boldness of this wine, so we're gonna do a good day, mate. How was that? I think that's getting better. And did a dingo really eat your baby? What wine is that, or what movie is that from? Nancy posted a meme this week about dingoes and daycare centers. Okay, so really interesting, all right? I'm always exploring wines and thinking about wines, and that's how I learn so much. I'm glad, Lisa, that I make a punch in the face so appealing. So I'm drinking this wine that's been out, right? I had it out for a half hour. I opened the bottle a half hour beforehand, and then I poured the glass, and it sat out. And it was good. It was really good, but very fruity. So I just poured a little bit from the bottle. And there's definitely like a bottle bacony, I want to call it a bottle stink, but I don't want you guys to think that's bad. It's not a bad thing. There's, what's a better word for it? Aroma. It's from out of the bottle, there's like another dimension that when it opened up, you lost, but I'm kind of liking it. I'm kind of liking it. All right. So cheers. All right. So Australia, this is kind of the general on Australia. So a lot of us hear Australian wine and you think, oh, that's awful. Well, part of that is in the 1990s, they had a movement to push wine into the US because we were big consumers. And at that time, the US was drinking very fruit-forward wines, big fruit, tons of flavor, tons of straightforward qualities. And so they invested, the Australian Wine Board invested all this money into making mainstream wines for the US. And what happened is things like Yellowtail, which no offense to Yellowtail, everybody understands it's a good $10 wine. It has good, really good fruit qualities to it, but it's not something where I would feel like I need to eat food with it, or where it would have depth, or I really want to think about it, because after the fruit goes away, you probably get some acid and some bitterness, so it's not well balanced, it's not structured, okay? And so it's a good, like if I have a party, I might have Yellowtail for those folks who don't love all these different tastes of wine, they just love drinking wine. And each time we talk about drinking wine versus tasting wine, it's a great drinking wine. But that was what they were going for in Australia, okay? And so people kind of started to think about Australian wine as being that kind of quality. And so they've tried to bounce back from that. It's taken a long time. And so their imports to the US are super expensive. Like when we were there and we were tasting, they have unbelievable, we didn't make it to Barossa, McLaren Vale, because it's too big, right? The country is the size of the United States. So we only made it to Hunter Valley and to Yarra Valley and the Mornington Peninsula, which is all cold climate. So they have amazing Semillon, they have amazing Chardonnay, they have amazing Pinot Noirs that are coming out of there. The Hunter Valley will say that they're making really high quality Shiraz, but a lot of the houses that started there with the climate change are now buying vineyards that are in different areas in order to get those really high quality grapes. So yes, they are making outstanding Shiraz, but they're not purchasing it there. Okay, all right. I'm just catching up on all the comments. Meryl Streep movie, Seinfeld. Greer is giving the Bishop an A++. That's awesome. Crying in the Dark. What's a Crying in the Dark? You guys all know Crying in the Dark. Okay, you're all talking about the movie. I'll let you guys talk about that because I have no idea, but I'm glad that you're covering it. So anyway, so they changed the way that Australia is making wine. So it's really interesting. There's now a new generation of wines emerging. And in Australia, as you know, it's kind of like rebels, right? They're very creative. They kind of go off and on their own and whatever. So there are some, they're criminals is their basic, right, the history. And so there are all these old school winemakers and their kids are now making wine. And so, for example, Powell and Sons, they are making unbelievable wine. David Powell is the winemaker, but his son is actually the true artist. So Keith and I are sitting in a restaurant in Brisbane, and we're having this fabulous wine dinner for Julia's birthday, for her 13th birthday. And we didn't know that you don't tip, so we gave him a really good tip, and we were talking wine, and we mentioned Powell and Sons, and so the waiter actually sat down at our table and started telling us how David Powell's son, who makes the wine, used to come in there all the time with different women every year or every week, and but he was still making. He had left his dad's company and was making his own wine, but it was unbelievable. So they have these like really creative artist types, and a lot of women, a lot of daughters of winemakers are making outstanding wines. So it's really an exciting time for Australia. Now, one of the issues we ran into there is when I tried to ship back, I had to carry most things back because it's so expensive to ship over wines with taxes and with freight, that unless you have someone who distributes here, it's very expensive. And so I was excited to get that, and I'm glad that you guys are loving this Glaetzer Bishop because it's a really good price point, and it's a really, really nice wine. They also have, so they make 4 wines. This is their lower level wine. It's the Wallace, and it's a blend of Shiraz and Grenache. And then they have 2 higher end wines too that are like retail pretty high. So it's pretty interesting. And do they use their feet in Australia to stomp the wine? You know what, Lisa, I know I should just be laughing and not answering, but you know I always want to answer. We were not offered that. We did not see that. So no, we'll have to put in that request. Oh, fun fact, I love this. They call their tasting rooms cellar doors. So I'm going to I would like to go to your cellar door. Okay. So, I'm going to skip Syrah. We can always go back to it. I don't think anybody's drinking a Syrah tonight that we've heard. But I will say food pairings, people ask. So for Syrah, blue cheeseburger, barbecue, bring out the subtle nuances in wine. Beef Wellington is recommended, lamb, and lentils with smoked ham hock. I've never had that, okay? Lentils with smoked ham hock.
I have not had lentils, and I've not had
I've had lentils. I mean, I've probably had not together. I don't know, maybe a project. But for Shiraz, peppery spice in the Australian Shiraz works wonders with peppery barbecue. So if you spice your meats with anise and clove to bring out those subtle nuances in the wine, that'll do really well. The top names in Shiraz right now, Penfolds, Torbreck, Powell and Sons, Tyrrell's, and we're going to give Glaetzer a shout out as well. Okay, let's see. I'm just reading the comments there. The Shiraz Grenache. Yeah, sounds really good. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk now about Australia in general, and then about the Barossa wine region, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about this producer because it ties in. Okay. So this is Australia. Is it upside down? No. Okay. Australia is huge. So we had such a hard time planning our trip to Australia. Not only were we planning a bat mitzvah at the same time, and we were 100% sure we were going, but we were going for a long time, and the maps are so misleading. It's really, really hard to plan it. And so we did the best we could. I planned most of it there, but the first week I planned out just by kind of using the maps and some of the guides. So I'm going to give you my 10 cents on planning my trip to Australia. Hi, Vanessa. Welcome. I'm so glad that you guys love this. All right. So this is Australia, most of it. I don't have Tanzania on there. It dropped off the bottom. Are you sure that's right side up? Yeah. Okay. And so when we're talking about wine, we're talking about this area down here. This is where the Yarra Valley is. This is where the Mornington Peninsula is. around I'm sorry, am I looking at Sydney here?
You're wrong.
Yeah, this is where the Hunter Valley is. It's around here. This is down.
No, you're totally wrong. Hunter Valley is.
Am I in the wrong coast?
Mhm.
Okay, here's Sydney.
Yep.
Let's try again. Here's Sydney. That's where the Hunter Valley is. Here is Melbourne. That's where the Mornington Peninsula and Yarra Valley are. And again, you're going to hear Pinot Noirs coming out of there that are outstanding, as well as Semillons. Okay, and then here's Adelaide. And all around Adelaide Hills, there's Kangaroo Island. See that little island out there? That's Kangaroo Island. They're making fantastic, world-class, best in the world wines. I mean, really, really fantastic in the land down under. And so Tasmania, yeah, absolutely. They're making cold climate Pinot Noirs that are fantastic. Awesome, awesome, Tina. Yeah, Sydney. Okay, so Barossa, the Barossa Valley is all around Adelaide, and as is McLaren Vale. So the funny thing is, I was thinking about going to the Barossa because I wanted to taste Shirazes, but we were located in Brisbane for most of it. And so what I didn't realize, I kept trying to plan a trip to hit McLaren Vale and Barossa in the same day. So if I drove it, they're like, you know, one's east, one's north, one's south, and one's north, which is confusing in itself because it's the land down under. But you can hit one from the other in an hour. But because it's, you know, that feel of you come and you stay and you spend an hour or two at our cellar door, they don't do wine tourists to go to both. They go to one or they go to the other. So it's pretty interesting. But Barossa is #1 for Shiraz. And I would say McLaren Vale is close. They are making wines that are a little bit lighter. And the alcohol, as Leslie's feeling now in Barossa, is the one that's the big punch. Okay, so this, I don't know if you can see this. There's Sydney. There's Adelaide. I'm afraid to even put my hand in it. Adelaide. Okay, I did look into screen sharing on Facebook, and I did not hear great things about it. You can't really screen share. It's still not working very well. So we hold up. We hold up maps. All right. All right. So what's that?
Old school.
Old school. So Barossa only has 150 wineries and only 80 cellar doors. And there are 3 distinct areas: northern, which is kind of higher up, central, and southern. They have different soils. So the one that we are drinking tonight, the one that I'm drinking tonight, is the Glaetzer Bishop out of the tasting pack. It's named after his mother. The mother and the father started the winery. They came over from Germany. The family came from Germany, and they settled in Barossa. And so a dingo did not eat her baby. Good day, mate.
That's not a knife.
A drinking game. Nice. And so this is 100% Shiraz, no blend in here. It's youthful, it's vibrant, vivid aromas, mulberries, raspberry spice. And it's from a vineyard that is pretty high up. It's a warmer district, and I think I said before, it's flat. And so the winemaker says it's one of the best Shirazes he's ever made. It's good with the food. And another thing about Shiraz and Syrah I forgot to mention is they're really good at aging. So you can age them 10 to 20 years because of their tannin and their acid. And I do want to call out Foggy 50 minutes in. That's a knife. I'm not sure what Andy's talking about, but the bottle is Venus. Crocodile Dundee. So it's the symbol of Venus, and that was for his mom and her feminine energy and in honor of his wife, which is very nice. And I was going to say, so Shirazes have the tannin, but if you guys notice, there's a big difference. Those of you who have had tannin before and you feel it on your gums, you feel it grips your mouth. Shiraz, the tannin in Shiraz is much more subtle, but it's still good with food. It's meant to be, or the way it comes from these grapes and even from Syrah is it's definitely more subtle, so it's good with food. All right, so 16 months at oak, 40 of it is new oak, and it's warm and rich with notes of black cherries. Okay, and a good food pairing. We were talking about food pairings. There's more pork ribs or sliders, so barbecue, right? Or eggplant parmesan, which is probably why Keith's pizza went well with it. And creamy cow's milk cheeses. All right, so go ahead and taste your wine with any food you have with you and see how it does. Okay, I'm going to try it with some blue cheese. Let's see if it holds up. Okay, it's unbelievable. The blue cheese brings out the savory quality in it. So when you're tasting, so this is a perfect example of how wine and food go together. The blue cheese binds onto your tasting, your taste buds, thank you. And it so binds onto your taste buds, and it allows the pepper and the savory quality to kind of come around it. And then that blue sharpness picks up with the, picks up some different notes with the wine. So it's pretty cool. Leslie, tell us what you're munching on. And the rest of you who haven't put out your food pairings yet, tell us what you are munching on and what's going with it. All right. I have, oh, and that was Barossa, by the way. Chris says it goes so well with Walmart pizza. You know what, Chris? It wouldn't surprise me. Do we have Walmart pizza last week too, Chris? Do we need to talk about that? But the McLaren Vale is softer. And the Barossa is more of a continental climate, so it has more weather extremes than McLaren Vale. And Eden Valley is prime space in the Barossa. So if you see Eden Valley on your wine, that's a really good wine as well. Tina says Chardonnay. You're drinking Chardonnay. Wait, does Chardonnay go well with Shiraz, TC, or are you drinking Chardonnay? Are you eating Chardonnay? Tell me how that works. Nicole has pizza and salad. I would assume, Nicole, that your wine is going to overpower your salad unless you use blue cheese dressing that will coat your palate. Marla says for Shiraz, sharp cheeses brought out the cherry taste. White grapes removed all flavor and made the alcohol hit my nose sharply. Yes, absolutely. And so that's a perfect lesson in, and good day, mate. That's a perfect lesson in wine and food pairing. Because when you're trying to figure out what you want to serve something with, so Leanne says she's got to work on her food pairing. She has Keebler cheese and peanut butter crackers. I would say the Keebler cheese might do okay. The sweet and the peanut butter crackers probably wouldn't do as well. But when you're let's say you order, I don't know, a 3-pack of the Bishop Shiraz. Well, now you've tasted it, and if you have time before you finish it, taste it with a few different things. And then you can even make a note of what you've tasted it with so that when you go to make a meal with it, you'll know how it works. You'll know what's in it and what's good with it. All right, do not pair. So according to Tina, do not pair Chardonnay and Shiraz. And Nicole has creamy Caesar. So it's interesting. You have to tell us how that goes, Nicole. And you have a little bit of Cab in yours, so that will change it a little bit and soften it. Leanne says, oh, the combo orange cracker as well. Then, you know, that must be a different taste. All right. There are blends, a lot of blends that go with Shiraz. So they like to blend it, and oftentimes Grenache and Syrah grow together. And as we've talked about with blends before, things that grow together